Through most of her childhood, 17-year-old Brianna Alexandra Maitland had seemed like your typical northern teen girl. Those who knew her generally recalled her as being a good-natured person with a strong longing for connection. She was known to make friends very easily. Brianna Maitland was 5 feet and 3 inches tall. She was raised with her older brother on their parents' farm in East Franklin, Vermont, near the Canadian border. Brianna Maitland was born October 8, 1986, in Burlington, Vermont, to Bruce and Kelly Maitland. Burlington, officially the City of Burlington, is the most populous city in Vermont. It is located 45 miles south of the Canada, United States border and 95 miles south of Montreal. As of the 2020 United States Census, the population was 44,743. A regional college town, Burlington is home to the University of Vermont and Champlain College. Franklin, Brianna's hometown, is a small farming community in Franklin County, Vermont with a population of 1,363 residents according to the 2020 census. Brianna called this area home until the restlessness within her longed for more excitement and freedom beyond the limited options available to a young woman with a zeal for life.
In her youth, Brianna was extensively trained in jiu-jitsu. She attended Missisquoi Valley Union High School in nearby Swanton, Vermont before transferring to Enosburg Falls High School in Enosburg Falls during her sophomore year. Enosburg Falls was a modest-sized agricultural town with remarkable stretches of open fields. On Brianna's 17th birthday in October 2003, she made the difficult decision to move out of her parents' farmhouse in Franklin. Her mother, Kelly Maitland, was assured by Brianna that she wanted to be closer to her friends in Enosburg. Brianna didn't have any issues with her parents, although many would state after her disappearance that she may have wanted to leave the safety of her parents' farmhouse because of a dark secret she was harboring. Her friends lived some 15 miles southeast of her in nearby Enosburg Falls. Brianna moved in with a friend, Megan Jefferson. While at Enosburg Falls High School, Brianna Maitland and Keely Lacrosse met and became fast friends. Brianna approached Keely in the gym during physical education class and joined her on the bleachers. Brianna introduced herself and the two struck up a conversation. They bonded over common interests like boys and music. Keely introduced Brianna to her group of girlfriends, Sydney Kuhn and Hillary Robitaille. Keely really took an interest in Brianna when she learned that Brianna had her own car, a green 1985 Oldsmobile 88 Royale sedan. The car was a gift from her grandfather, but was legally registered to her mother, Kelly Maitland.
Brianna was described by friends as the hot girl, the most beautiful and sexiest girl in all of Franklin County. She was lean and leggy with shiny brown hair, hazel eyes, and a bright smile. While she had the style and charisma of a grown woman, Brianna was still a teenage girl. She could be silly and carefree at times. Friends and family also described Brianna as naive, which led to her making poor judgments and being easily taken advantage of. Her naivete was at the root for many of her problems that followed.
The group of friends, including Katie Manning, Megan Jefferson, Sydney Kuhn, and Hillary Robitaille, would all pile up into Brianna's Oldsmobile 88 Royale sedan and go to Keely's boyfriend's house every night after school. Brianna was the designated driver for the whole squad of teenage girls. However, by early February of 2004, it became clear to the circle of girls that both Brianna and Keely seemed to be attracted to the same teenage boy, namely James Robitaille, Hillary's brother and Keely's on and off boyfriend of 2 years. Keely felt betrayed by Brianna's actions, especially when Brianna had gone behind her back and hooked up with James Robitaille when she was out of state visiting with her mother. When she returned, Sydney Kuhn and Hillary Robitaille informed her that James had been cheating on her with Brianna while she was away. Keely confronted her boyfriend, and he brazenly admitted that he had slept with Brianna. The girl's friendship with Brianna began to fall apart almost immediately with the revelation. Brianna, sensing that she had crossed the line of friendship by hooking up with Keely's boyfriend, decided to drop out of Enosburg Falls High School to avoid any conflict with Keely. For a brief time, Brianna slept in her car in the frigid northern Vermont temperatures before eventually moving in with another childhood friend, Jillian Stout. Jillian lived in Sheldon, Vermont, approximately 10 miles west of Enosburg Falls and 10 miles northeast of St. Albans, Vermont. To complete her education, Brianna enrolled in a GED program. During this time, Brianna had also begun to keep to herself and focused primarily on passing her GED exam, but her adventurous nature was too strong to completely stay away from hanging out with James Robitaille. He had convinced Brianna that he was in love with her. But for the sake of friendship, Brianna agreed to meet up with James off and on. Brianna had been exposed to drugs like marijuana, heroin, and crack cocaine through her association with Keely and some of her other associations at Enosburg Falls High School. It is through them that Brianna was introduced to two black men named Ramon Ryans and Nathaniel Jackson. These men moved from New York City to Vermont specifically to sell drugs to the local teenagers in Upper Vermont. The black men attended parties with the teenage crowd and supplied them with marijuana, heroin, and crack cocaine. The men even enticed their way into sleeping with many of the young teenage girls in the area. Brianna was known to hang out with them as well. Late February 2004, Keely spotted Brianna in the passenger seat of James Robitaille's truck. Keely approached the vehicle and shouted obscenities at Brianna. Brianna kept her head down, and James Robitaille shouted back at Keely to stop calling Brianna names. They hastily drove off. A couple of days later, James Robitaille and Brianna Maitland showed up at a party at the pallet factory. Keely, jealous that Brianna had wooed James away from her, began instigating arguments with Brianna throughout the evening. She was doing any and everything she could to elicit a reaction out of Brianna, but she wouldn't say anything crude back to Keely. Sometime during the evening, Brianna was spotted flirting with another young man, not James Robitaille. His name was Mike Stebbins. Keely got wind of this and wanted to confront Brianna about it. She was sick of Brianna stealing other people's boyfriends. By this time, she learned that Brianna had left the party. When Keely went outside looking for her, she noticed Brianna sitting in the passenger's seat of James Robitaille's truck. Keely walked out to the truck alone and knocked on the window. Trying to de-escalate the situation, Brianna rolled the window down and was immediately punched several times in the face by Keely. The altercation resulted in Brianna suffering a broken nose and concussion. She later filed charges against Keely Lacrosse.
At the hospital, Brianna's parents asked her why she didn't fight back. After all, she was trained in jiu-jitsu. Brianna just shrugged and said that she didn't want people to not like her. Brianna's parents tried to convince their daughter to return home, but Brianna was adamant that she would tough it out at Jillian Stout's home to be closer to her new job at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery.
Friday, March 19, 2004. Brianna took her GED exam on the morning of March 19th. Brianna's intense studying paid off, and she passed her GED exam. To celebrate, Brianna and her mother, Kelly, had lunch in St. Albans. Brianna's father, Bruce, was out of state working in New York at the time. Brianna was in good spirits and had discussed plans of attending college in the fall with her mother while they ate. Brianna finally had a huge win after so many weeks of turmoil. Everything appeared to be looking up after the assault a few weeks back. After lunch, Brianna and Kelly spent the afternoon shopping. Brianna needed black pants for her new waitressing job at KJ's Diner in town, and Kelly offered to purchase the pants for her in honor of her achievement. While waiting in the checkout line of the local clothing store, Kelly believed that something outside caught Brianna's attention. Brianna mumbled something under her breath before telling her mother that she would return shortly and quietly left the store. Kelly completed her transaction and met Brianna in the parking lot. She quickly noticed that her daughter now seemed agitated. Brianna's lighthearted mood from earlier in the day had now changed. Brianna sternly told her mother that she needed to go home and prepare for her upcoming work shift at the Black Lantern Inn, a restaurant in Montgomery. Not wanting to pry further, Kelly did not ask what had caused Brianna's mood change. She dropped Brianna off at Jillian Stout's home between 3:30 and 4 p.m. This would be the last time Kelly would see her daughter. At some point before leaving for her work shift, Brianna left a note stating that she would be getting off work between 10 o'clock and midnight. Brianna then departed for the Black Lantern Inn in her green 1985 Oldsmobile 88 sedan. She made the 26-mile trek eastward from Sheldon to her job in Montgomery.
Was Brianna warned while she was with her mother to not go to work that night? There has been no confirmation that she was ever told this by anyone. Barely anyone knew she had started working at the Black Lantern Inn because of the fight she had with Keely Lacrosse. Was it likely that since Brianna actually smoked cigarettes, she did not want to smoke in front of her mother? She was probably dying for a cigarette after taking the GED test that morning. She had to go to work that evening. Was Brianna getting agitated by her mother taking her time through all of her various errands? She had a half-hour drive to work. The notion that she owed people money was speculation. She may have owed money, but how much and to whom it was owed has never definitively been answered.
After completing her shift of washing dishes at work, Brianna clocked out and left the Black Lantern Inn at approximately 11:20 p.m. It was 8 degrees outside. Her coworkers wanted her to stay and hang out with them, possibly even getting some food to eat, but she told them that she needed to get home and rest before working the next day at her new second job at KJ's Diner in Street Albans. One of the owners witnessed Brianna alone in her vehicle as she drove off. Saturday, March 20th, 2004. Early the next day, a Vermont State Police trooper was dispatched to an abandoned house on Route 118 about a mile from the Black Lantern Inn. Brianna's Oldsmobile sedan was found backed into the side of the house. Known locally as the Old Dutchburn House, the siding of the home had been breached by the rear end of the sedan. A piece of plywood that had been covering a window lay on the car's trunk. The officer also observed loose change, a water bottle and an unsmoked cigarette on the ground near Brianna's car. The trooper assumed the car had been abandoned by a drunk driver, and a towing company took the vehicle to a local garage.
Some other items found inside of Brianna's abandoned vehicle on the front passenger seat included two $30 paychecks addressed to Brianna Maitland, one styrofoam takeout box with half of a sandwich inside on the front passenger floor, a marijuana leaf trinket with the text Emerald Bay on it, a cutout image of Angelina Jolie from an article in the August 2003 issue of Cosmopolitan magazine with the text Angelina holds nothing back, taped to the ceiling, beer bottle caps glued over radio dials, multiple cigarette butts in the vehicle's ashtray, a small card with a graphic of a ferry standing in front of a waterfall, in the driver's visor. In the back seat of Brianna Maitland's vehicle were two red Solo cups on the floor behind the passenger seat, 3 cases of food items, including Starkist tuna, Annie's white mac and cheese, and Campbell's chunky soup, behind the driver's seat, a CD player with headphones behind the passenger's seat, an ice scraper behind the passenger's seat, an empty beer bottle on the driver's side back seat.
Brianna was not reported missing for a few days. Kelly, Brianna's mother, did not learn about the discovery of Brianna's car until 5 days after its discovery at the Dutchburn house. Jillian Stout saw Brianna's note on Friday, March 19th, before she spent the weekend away from home. Jillian found the note undisturbed when she returned the following Monday, March 22nd. Assuming Brianna was staying elsewhere, she did not call Kelly until Tuesday, March 23rd. Kelly began calling various people in Brianna's circle of friends in order to locate her daughter, including her employers, none of whom had seen or spoken to her in the past 4 days. Failing in her efforts, and still unaware that the vehicle Brianna was driving had been recovered, she filed a missing persons report later that day. On Thursday, March 25th, Brianna's parents provided photographs of her to the Vermont State Police in St. Albans. This jogged one of the troopers' memories, and he showed them a picture of the Oldsmobile found at the old Dutchburn house. The Maitlands, sickened to their core, immediately identified the car as belonged to their daughter. Kelly later said in interviews that she was instinctively repulsed by the photo of Brianna's car backed into the Dutchburn's abandoned home and believed someone else, not Brianna, had left the car in such a way.
Witness sightings. After Brianna's reported disappearance, several individuals came forward to law enforcement to report sightings of Brianna's vehicle at the old Dutchburn house the night she disappeared. Witness 1. A man who drove by the house between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. on March 19th to 20th said the vehicle's headlights may have been on. He said he did not see anyone in or around the car. Witness 2. A second man who drove by between midnight and 12:30 a.m. on Saturday, March 20th, recalled seeing a turn signal flashing on the car. Witness 3, James Robitelli. Around 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, March 20th, Brianna's ex-boyfriend, James Robitelli, drove past the scene after a night of partying across the border in Canada. He thought he recognized the vehicle, but he did not see anyone in or around it. He later changed his story once law enforcement verified that he did not cross into or out of Canada on Saturday, March 20th. He now stated that he came across Brianna's car around 2 o'clock in the morning and that he turned the vehicle's lights off and shut the doors. He left without contacting the police or Brianna's parents because he was intoxicated from beer and drugs at the time and didn't want to get into trouble. Witnesses 4. The next morning, some passing motorists found the scene odd enough that they stopped and took pictures of it. One of the photographers reported some loose change, a water bottle and a bracelet or necklace on the ground next to the car.
The Vermont State Police, who led the official investigation for the first months after Brianna's disappearance, were skeptical that foul play was involved, considering the possibility that Brianna was a runaway. The area surrounding the old Dutchburn house was combed on foot by police and search dogs, but nothing was found. Brianna's vehicle was processed by the State Crime Laboratory for evidence on March 30th, 2004, after the car had been impounded at a local garage for several days. Upon the car's return to the Maitland family, Bruce noted that his daughter's ATM card, glasses, contact lens case, and migraine medication had all been left inside. It was later concluded by law enforcement that foul play was the probable cause of Brianna's disappearance, and a 2007 flyer provided by the FBI stated that the scene at which Brianna's car was discovered may have been staged to appear as an accident. Brianna's parents publicly speculated that she may have been abducted by multiple people, stating that it would have been difficult for a single assailant to subdue her given her jiu-jitsu training. In the weeks following Brianna's disappearance, the Vermont State Police received an anonymous tip claiming that she was being held against her will in a house in nearby Berkshire, 10 miles from Montgomery. The rented house, then occupied by Ramon L. Ryans and Nathaniel Charles Jackson, two known drug dealers from New York, was raided by the Vermont State Police along with Fish and Wildlife agents and Border Patrol agents on April 15, 2004. A search of the house revealed no signs of Maitland, but did turn up amounts of marijuana, cocaine, scales, razor blades, pipes, small plastic bags, cutting agents for cocaine, a ledger, and a .22 caliber rifle. Police arrested the occupants of the house, Ramon Ryans, 28, of Queens, New York and North Carolina, Timothy Powell of Berkshire, Stephanie Macchia, 17, also of Berkshire, and Michelle Macheda. All of those arrested admitted to knowing Maitland, but maintained they did not know where she was or what had happened to her. After being arraigned and released pending trial without bond set, Nathaniel Jackson left the state of Vermont and Ramon Ryans left Franklin County and went to Burlington, Vermont, some 30 miles away, where he moved into an apartment occupied by a 25-year-old single mother named Legia Ray Collins. Stephanie Macchia made a deal with the state of Vermont and entered the Franklin County Court Diversion Program. Under his probation conditions, Ramon Ryans was to avoid contact with Stephanie Macchia, Timothy Powell, and Michelle Macheda, who were in the home during the raid. On July 5, 2004, Ramon Ryans reported to the Burlington Police Department that his girlfriend, Legia Collins, was missing and that a mess. Collins had gone to Ellen Ducharme's home at about midnight on July 4th. The Burlington police eventually located Ellen Ducharme and interviewed her several times. By July 12th, the Burlington police had become suspicious of Ellen Ducharme and had begun to keep her under surveillance. At about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on July 12th, Ellen Ducharme voluntarily appeared at the Burlington police station and made incriminating statements without having received Miranda warnings. She told the detectives that she had struck Legia Collins in the head repeatedly during a fight. The fight began when Ellen and Timothy Cruz, an associate of Ellen, tried to rob Legia Collins and steal her crack cocaine. While Legia Collins was still alive in her basement, Timothy Cruz choked Collins with a rag or a towel at her Burlington, Vermont home. Legia Collins had been Ellen Ducharme's drug dealer since March 2004 and had paid Ellen Ducharme in crack cocaine for babysitting her 2 young children. Ellen's boyfriend, Moses Rabar, disposed of the body. She was arrested that night for violating her probation and arraigned the next day on the violation of parole charge. Law enforcement also attempted to apprehend Ellen Ducharme's 52-year-old lover named Moses Rabar who, while being pursued in his vehicle by officers, pulled over and shot himself in the head. 2 days later, Moses Rabar died in the hospital. Ramon Ryans was never implicated or charged in the murder of Legia Collins. Legia's remains were found in a wooded area in Ripton, Vermont within the boundaries of the Green Mountain National Forest on July 31, 2004. In August 2004, Ellen Ducharme was charged with the first-degree murder of Legia Collins on July 5, 2004, by striking her repeatedly in the head with a baseball bat. The information alleged a mandatory maximum of life imprisonment and a presumptive minimum of 35 years. The notarized police affidavit recounted the statement of Debbie Gorton of Colchester, the sister of Ellen Ducharme, who was convicted in the July 2004 drug murder of Legia Collins. Debbie Gorton claimed Brianna Maitland was killed by Ramon Ryans 1 week after her disappearance and her body dismembered with a table saw and disposed of on a pig farm. Gorton claimed that Ryans killed Maitland over drug money. Debbie Gorton told the Burlington officer that Brianna had given Ryans a couple $1,000s to buy crack cocaine, but eventually asked for the money back. Brianna, she claimed, was killed following the argument that ensued. Debbie Gorton claimed that Ducharme told her of the murder and that Maitland's body was in Ducharme's basement at one point. In the Burlington Police Department report from a separate March 2006 police investigation in Colchester, Gorton suggested that her sister and several others, including Moses Rabar, Daryl Rabar, and Timothy Cruz, were also involved, particularly in the disposing of her body. Police cautioned, however, that the document, obtained by the County Courier and independent investigative journalist Hank Albarelli, has led to no solid evidence of Brianna Maitland's whereabouts or her fate. The Maitland family additionally reported that they had received several uncorroborated anonymous phone calls from persons claiming Brianna was tied to a tree in the woods and that she had been disposed of at the bottom of a lake.
Katie Manning, one of Brianna's friends, told law enforcement that she was comforted by a male friend regarding Brianna's disappearance and that she became horrified when she learned that the male friend was telling other people that he had witnessed the life being extinguished from Brianna. Katie believed that Brianna's disappearance was all related to drugs. Katie felt Brianna may have consumed too many drugs and overdosed. The other teenagers panicked and hid her body. There was vomit on the back seat. Katie believed that her male friend should be arrested but also conceded that there was only hearsay against him. There wasn't any concrete evidence against her male friend. This person's family also owned a lot of land in the area and came from a family of some importance. The vomit was tested and it did not belong to Brianna. It in fact belonged to James Robitaille. Law enforcement drained a manure pit belonging to a wealthy family and found a handsaw. Unfortunately, the owners would not allow any other searches on their properties without a warrant. James Robitaille passed away unexpectedly on Wednesday, July 3, 2019 at the age of 33. He was involved in an accident on Vermont Route 100 near Tetrault Road in Newport Center around 5 o'clock in the morning. The crash was a result of speed. His vehicle burst into flames and James died at the scene along with the elderly person he struck, whose car flipped.
March 2016, on the case's 12th anniversary, investigators revealed to a local television station that they collected DNA samples from near Brianna's car and had them added to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's database. The samples were compared to samples from 11 people of interest in the case, but no match was found. In July 2016, the old Dutch burn house, where Maitland's vehicle had been discovered, was destroyed in a fire. In March 2022, the Vermont State Police revealed they had finally found a match to the DNA sample found on the ground near Brianna's car. The identity of the person has not been released, although officials did say it belonged to one of 11 people they tested previously in connection to Brianna's disappearance.
After examining Brianna Maitland's background and the events leading up to and after her disappearance, I think I'm ready to give my speculative opinion on what may have happened to Brianna Alexandra Maitland. First, I do not subscribe at all to the notion that Ramon Ryans and Nathaniel Jackson killed Brianna to what amounts to a drug debt. Yes, Ramon and Nathaniel are very shady people that played the hell out of the Vermont State Police. But the Vermont State Police also knew that the raid on their home was illegal. Let me explain. The Fourth Amendment of the Constitution requires that searches and seizures be reasonable and, in most cases, conducted pursuant to a valid warrant based on probable cause. When law enforcement officials deviate from these constitutional mandates, the evidence they obtain may be subject to exclusion from court proceedings. There was a great chance that everything discovered during the raid would be inadmissible in a court trial. The officials needed more than just some anonymous phone call to conduct a raid on someone's home, even if the subjects are known drug dealers. The fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine extends the reach of the exclusionary rule beyond the immediately tainted evidence. Under this principle, evidence derived from an illegal search or seizure may also be subject to suppression. Courts must often navigate the fine line between legitimate law enforcement needs and the protection of individual privacy rights. The standard for establishing probable cause requires that there be sufficient facts and circumstances to warrant a reasonable person to believe that evidence of a crime will be found in the place to be searched. There were no exigent circumstances that gave the Vermont State Police to raid the home of Ryans and Jackson. An anonymous phone call is not enough. That is why Ryans and Jackson got such light sentences. The Vermont State Police really only had tunnel vision for Ryans and Jackson and their group as the only suspects in Brianna Maitland's disappearance because they were outsiders that were corrupting their idyllic vision of Vermont. The police were not seriously looking anywhere else for possible leads or other suspects, when the actual truth could be that Ryans and his group had nothing to do with Brianna's disappearance and that they had only repeated the same rumors that everyone in Franklin County had heard. I also don't believe Debbie Gorton's claim that Brianna gave Ryans $2,000 to buy crack cocaine and then decided she wanted the money back. That an argument took place between the two, and in a rage Ryans abducted Brianna and later killed her. Where the hell did Brianna get $2,000? She had two $30 paychecks on her seat when she disappeared. She did not have a nickel to rub or a pot to piss in. Ryans and Nathaniel are not known as killers. Scary, yes. Ruthless, perhaps. Associated with unsavory people, most definitely. But that is most drug dealers. Ryans and Jackson simply took advantage of Vermont's lack of police presence to peddle drugs. I could be proven wrong, but for me, that is the extent of their involvement with Brianna. The real culprit, I believe, was Brianna's ex-boyfriend, James Robitaille. The police were so focused on Ryans and company that their most plausible suspect was right in front of them. Let me explain. Brianna broke up with James after making the mistake of sleeping with him behind Keely LaCrosse back. Brianna continued her friendship with James when she should have had a clean break from him. I believe James still had feelings for Brianna and wanted to keep her in his orbit. So, he began stalking her. I believe it was James she saw in the parking lot at the department store while she was smoking a cigarette. Seeing him quickly irritated her. Brianna's mother noticed it right away. I don't believe James spoke to her directly. Maybe his presence was enough to make Brianna want to go home right then. Brianna went to work later at the Black Lantern Inn. Very few people realized that she was working there. But Franklin County is a small place. James tracked her down and realized that Brianna was working at the Black Lantern Inn. He waited for her to get off work. When Brianna left around 11:30 that evening, James was waiting for her near the Longley Bridge. When she passed, James quickly followed her and began flashing his lights at her. Brianna panicked but soon realized that it was James. She pulled into the driveway of the Dutch burn house. James pulled in slightly ahead of her and got out of the car. He approached Brianna's vehicle and she unlocked the door so that he could sit in the passenger seat.
Holy shit, James. What the fuck do you want? You scared the living shit out of me. Are you fucking stalking me now? You got Keely. Go be with that bitch. Leave me the fuck alone,
serious?
James.
Really?
You hear me?
Brianna, are you
Leave
fucking
me
serious? How many times do I have to say I am sorry? For all of it. You know how much I want to be with you. You know this. Why are you being like this?
Things heated up pretty quickly. Brianna tried to get away from James and accidentally put the car into reverse and backed up into the Dutch burn house. Now angry, James reached over and struck Brianna in the face repeatedly. Then he quickly realized that he had made things much worse for himself. Knowing that if he left her behind, she would report him to police. James pulled her out of the vehicle and dragged her to his car. Then he drove off, forgetting to turn the lights off or shut the doors to her car. He quickly sped off. Where he took Brianna is anyone's guess, but she has never been seen again. Witness number 1, a man who drove by the house between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m., said the vehicle's headlights may have been on. He said he did not see anyone in or around the car. This is the clue that suggested that whatever transpired between Brianna and James had happened quickly. Witness number 2, a second man who drove by between midnight and 12:30 a.m., recalled seeing a turn signal flashing on the car. This is the clue that Brianna was trying to navigate a turnaround James vehicle by even having the afterthought to turn on her signal out of habit. Witness number 3, James Robitelli. James returned to Brianna's vehicle around 2 o'clock in the morning so that he turned the vehicle's lights off and shut the doors. James would later place himself at the scene of the crime when speaking with law enforcement by letting them know he was there innocently. He has given himself an out if anything of his turns up at the scene, such as DNA. Witnesses number for the next morning. Some passing motorists found the scene odd enough that they stopped and took pictures of Brianna's car. The only question I have now is where James hid the body. My guess would be out of state, maybe in nearby upstate New York. Maybe he hid the body somewhere in the vast forests in the area and he got lucky that her body was never found. And even if found, could not be tied back to him. Well, we have come to the end of another perplexing case. I want to make it clear, these are my own speculative opinions about this case. They are not meant to be taken as definitive true statements. I have simply given my own interpretations of the facts presented in this case. Thank you for watching. My goal is to get to 200 subscribers by the end of the year. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Enjoy your day. Essentials.